And for the second time this year, Michigan State loses by double digits at home to an interim head coach. And I don't know what's more dead, this program or my soul.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for making Locked On Spartans your first listen every single day right here on the #1 ranked Locked On Podcast Network. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below if your soul is just as dead as the roadkill that I passed on I-75 this morning, or if you got a little bit of life in you still when it comes to this program, because, more of the same on Saturday. Like, really felt like we just watched a rerun, right? I mean, cool. Defense gave you a chance for the first 3 quarters of the game, but unfortunately, they played 60 minutes of football, not 45. Your quarterback almost got killed again, Alessio Milivojevic. He was pressured on 24 of 33 of his dropbacks, according to Pro Football Focus. You couldn't get to the quarterback either. You had 9 quarterback hurries compared to Penn State's 26 quarterback hurries. And, the only difference of this game was actually for the first time this season, Michigan State ran the ball for more than 4 yards per carry. Woo! Now, granted, you take away the first play of the game, that 57-yard run by Eli Tolliver, which was a great play. It was awesome. The only awesome thing that happened on offense, seemingly. You take that one play out, and then, they didn't run for more than 4 yards per carry, but hey, let's take a win wherever we can get it, right? They finally, for the first time this season against a Big Ten team, ran the ball for more than 4 yards per carry. So that's right. Hang the banner, throw the parade, do whatever makes you happy. Look, do you guys want me to talk about this game? Like, do you guys actually care about what we saw on the field? Oh, how things can improve going into next week as we're already eliminated from bowl eligibility? I highly doubt it. I'll give you this. Look, the one thing that I really am even moderately interested in is how Alessio Milivojevic looks. He looked really good 2 weeks ago against Minnesota. Kind of a step back against Penn State. Now, of course, that is not all entirely on him. I think what Penn State did, actually, they didn't send as many blitzes to Alessio Milivojevic as Minnesota did. And I think, they could do that because they can get to the quarterback with the 4-man rush, right? Especially with Danny Dennis Sutton, I believe his name is. I think he has 13 quarterback hurries on the day. That guy was a monster the entire evening. So, yeah, and also Alessio was really good against the blitz against Minnesota. So that's as in-depth to the actual game I'll get. I'm sorry if you want a little more, but I got to speak to what the large portion of you guys want, and truly who could care about the X's and O's and ins and outs of that game. Let's talk about just how we're feeling, guys, right? I mean, because I'm dead. I'm sure you feel the same way, too. Based on the tweets I get, based on the emails I get, based on the conversations that I have with other Michigan State fans, many of them, diehard Michigan State fans, I think we could all share the same opinion that apathy, as if you thought it couldn't get any higher from last season. We may have just found another level to this because... Look, man, I mean, old me, a few years ago when I still had, just hope with this football team. And don't get this confused to say, I'm not a fan anymore. No, I am a fan. I bleed green. I will still watch and talk about all these games. Don't get it twisted. But, that fire is just a big lighter right now. It is no longer that roaring Olympic torch that it used to be. Old me a few years ago, I'd be getting on here irate, screaming, throwing stuff off my couch after Penn State got to run a play seemingly 3 seconds after the play clock ran out to end the game. But who could care? Old me would have been furious about what happened last week with the NCAA making their ruling that Michigan State has to vacate wins. Also it turned out, and this came out in the press conference, that last year's wins are vacated, even though the NCAA retroactively made those players ineligible. Whatever. You can hear it. I don't really care that much. But a few years ago, I would be screaming until I am red in the face. But like, we got so many other different issues going on. Like, how could anyone get upset about this, right? I mean, old me would have been on edge last night at my sister's wedding, right? Because, hey, large family contingent comes in. There's a great guy by the name of Kevin. Now, his only flaw in life is that he's a Michigan fan, a big one at that. And he came up to me with the score of the Penn State-Michigan State game in his hand, and he said, "What happened?" And my first reaction was like, are you impressed that we kept it so close today? Like, it didn't even register to me that he was just trying to talk smack, and I let him know, like, Kevin, I'm going to let you down, man. I'm so dead that you can't even do anything to me right now that's even going to get my blood pressure even a beat higher than what it is right now. I know that you're trying to get under my skin, but unfortunately, I've been dead for a while, so I'm sure a lot of you guys feel the same. And I thought that I couldn't get upset about anything else. But I got two things that I am actually a little peeved about as it pertains to this game. Yeah, there is maybe just a little bit of life left in this carcass, but here's what I'm upset about. 2 minutes to go, Alessio Milivojevic running for his life all game. He's been sacked, 6 times, 7 times. He's been hit an additional 8 times on top of that, it seemed like. He was clearly limping. The penultimate series, the second to last series, he takes a hard hit on his left shoulder, okay? And then to start the final series, he gets hit pretty good on his right shoulder. Like, I've never seen the Monty Python Holy Grail movie, whatever. I'm going to try to make a movie reference to something I've never seen before, but it's like when the guy's getting all of his limbs chopped off, and he's still saying in the battle. Now, of course, Alessio, he's a gamer. He's a tough kid. He's a football player. He's going to stay in the game. It's time for the adults to actually make a decision, though. See that your quarterback, your second-string quarterback, you don't got many left of these on the bench here, is limping. He just hurt one shoulder on the last drive. He started this last drive when the game's already out of reach, hurting his other shoulder. Why are you not just running the ball out, waving the white flag? Why aren't you getting Leo Hannon off the bench, giving him a chance to be the gladiator in the Coliseum to get eaten up by the Lions? I mean, that was borderline inhumane what they were doing to Alessio at the end of that game. So I'm just sitting there wondering, like, and I'm sorry to call names, but truly, this is what comes to mind immediately. Like, do these morons understand anything that goes on right in front of them? And I'm going just a few weeks ago, actually more than a month ago at this point. This goes back to the Nebraska game, where Aiden Childs is getting mauled the entire game. The offensive line was horrendous in that game. And then after he's asked about, hey, did you guys think of making the switch at offensive line any earlier in the game? And Jonathon Smith said something to the tune of, it looked fine for us. We'll have to look at it on film again to see if we missed anything. And like, I truly, like, a meteor can strike the 50-yard line at Spartan Stadium in the middle of the game, and I would question if this coaching staff would even realize it happened. Like, how is it possible to just miss things as routine as that? So, again, very, minute part of the game. Obviously had no effect on the outcome, but the outcome was already a foregone conclusion at that point. Your starting quarterback, Aiden Childs, who you benched, well, he's in a walking boot. Okay, Alessio Milovojevic's about to be in a walking boot if just one more hit gets laid on him. Just run out the clock. Just get another quarterback in here. Be adults. But that's not the only thing I was upset about. There was a quote that came out of the press conference, and believe me, I am empathetic to Jonathon Smith's situation. Before I start teeing off on that, I will empathize with him. Truly I will, because this is not a good situation that he inherited. But he's also got a big slice of the blame pie to eat at this point. But first, before we get to that, guys, you need to talk your ears off about FanDuel Sportsbook. That's right. Let's say you're just absolutely disgusted with football. You want nothing to do with it? Well, hey, here comes the NBA. That's right. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on all that action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Now, even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next point to the fourth quarter comebacks that happen pretty much all the time in the NBA. Now, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when it's your team making that late-game push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com, sign up today, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Also, guys, holiday season. It's getting closer and closer. Just get it taken care of with Alumni Hall. Now, whether you got family members, friends, yourself, that's a big Michigan State fan, you want to upgrade their wardrobe this holiday season, guys, Alumni Hall is the place to do it. They have all the licensed gear that you could ever need. We're talking Nike, we're talking Columbia, Champion, Yeti, New Era, so much more. And they got gifts for the entire family. We're talking itty-bitty kids to the full-grown adults. They have hats, they have gifts, they have tailgating gear. They got anything that you could need for the Spartans in your life. And they're taking care of the Spartan community because Michigan State students and faculty, as well as military and all first responders, you get 10% off with a valid ID in the store. And on top of all that, you're going to want to follow Alumni Hall on social media and download the Alumni Hall app because that is where you will find even more special offers and sales. So guys, hop into Alumni Hall in the Eastwood Town Center in Lansing near the Apple Store, or shop online or through their app. And best part is, for every $150 you spend, you get $10 in hall cash to use for the next time. So grab that new game day look this holiday season or upgrade your tailgate with Alumni Hall, your ultimate Michigan State shopping destination. Now, there was the press conference, which, got me rubbed a little the wrong way here. And no, I'm not even talking about the 10th iteration of Jonathon Smith hopping on the microphone and saying we need to get better over and over again. Like, yeah, bro, it's game 10, week 12. You're already eliminated from bowl contention. Yeah, I would say you need to get better too. Thanks for stating the obvious yet again. But look, before I really start going off here, I like to think of myself as, someone that empathizes a lot with other people, and Jonathon Smith is one of those people too. What he inherited here was not great shakes to begin with, and I think I've been very clear at that in a lot of previous episodes, so the everyday listeners have heard my spiel on this, the mess he inherited from Mel Tucker, or even if you're not an everyday listener, you probably know. This wasn't overtaking Oregon's program or Alabama's program by any stretch of the imagination. This was a damaged program that Jonathon Smith inherited. And it got no better. And this was borderline sad at the press conference where he said that he wasn't even aware Michigan State was being investigated when he got hired. Now, look, there was a clause in the contract that said Michigan State didn't have to disclose anything like that. Is that shady? It sure is. Well, look, it is what it is at this point. What a mess that he took over that has only gotten messier. His very few wins that he got last year have been erased because the NCAA didn't rule that the player was ineligible until after the whole season was played. Great work there by that incredible organization. But look, man, this is what really got my goat. And again, I want to reiterate it in case I just wasn't crystal clear enough. There's a lot of blame to go around the last few years with how Michigan State is in dire straits right now. The Mel Tucker, that whole regime, they get a big chunk of this. But there is a sizable slice of pie, too, to eat for Jonathon Smith. And the quote that really got me going, and this is typed out by Emmett Matazowski of Spartan Shadow, so shout out to that fine gentleman over there. Quote, "We need another year of development of the current roster and recruiting class. This league is not easy." Yeah, right, dude. Because you'd be the only team that gets better from this year to the next year, right? This is why I'm out on Jonathon Smith again. Seems like a great guy, right? Real good family man. Don't know me, no ill will towards him personally, of course, but professionally, it's time to move on to the next thing, and this is why. We're talking about needing another year of development of the current roster and recruiting class. I'm sorry, I know this roster isn't elite. This roster isn't great. It's hardly even good, if not, call it an average would even be a stretch at this point. But is it so bad that you've lost 6 of your last 7 games by double digits? No, I don't think so. Is the roster so bad that even Purdue, a roster that should be way worse, a roster that is way worse than yours, or Northwestern, same thing. They're not as talented as you, but yet they're playing Michigan a lot closer than Michigan State was in their home barn. Purdue goes on the road to Ann Arbor. They play them tight. They lose by 5 points. Northwestern, they're playing in a baseball field. Basically, in a Michigan home game, that's how many of their fans were there. They were, a 30-yard field goal away from winning that game? Is it another year of development, or are we just not really developing anyone here? Because, You also had the offseason to develop anyone, too. Show of hands. Comment below on YouTube. Reach out to me, lockedonspartans@gmail.com. Who from last year's roster has gotten better this year? We're talking about needing another year to develop these players. How about, okay, let's take a sample size then. Who on Saturday, and pick your Saturday, it could have been this one that we just watched, any of the previous 9, who got better last year to this year? Which position coach can we trust to develop players from last year to this one? Because I'm not coming up with any names. Sure, I suppose the linebackers look a touch better if you want to go there. And then that's only if I'm in an incredible mood, and clearly I'm not. So I wouldn't give up any name here. Like, oh, you need time to develop players. Like how you had 3 years to develop your top 200 highly rated 4-star quarterback that eventually just got benched because, well, you couldn't mold him into anything close to his ceiling. You need more time to develop, guys. Seems like you've had some time. And seems like no progress has been made anywhere across the board. Whether it's just from one year to the next, or like the example I just named. The carryover from Oregon State, Aiden Childs, who has all the tools, has all the traits. And now he's on the sidelines holding the clipboard, wearing a headset, watching Alessio Milivojevic play because you couldn't develop him. So save me the quote about needing time to develop. Okay? Like, you need more time to develop this offensive line that largely came back with a lot of experience last year. And I get it. Hey, they started a lot of young players yesterday, right? Like Rustin Young, Rakeem Johnson, 2 redshirt freshmen. Yeah, okay. They've had some injuries. But you've also had guys with experience on that depth chart. And that offensive line, I was just about to say might be the worst in the Big Ten. I don't even think that there's a might. That is a brutal, brutal unit. And don't even get me started on we need a recruiting class. Like, oh yeah, we're just one 43rd ranked class away from turning this thing around. You delusional? What? How stupid do you think we are? What are you talking about, man? No, so that's just where I got completely lost. It was that one. I was fine the first 58 minutes of the game, and then I'm seeing Alessio drag himself to the finish line because no adult can realize that he's one big hit away from self-combusting on the field, and then followed by the press conference, which again, layer it with some empathy here. Like this, a bad situation somehow got even worse over the last week, but he ain't helping himself either. And like, let's say he stays. Like, how does this get better? You know, let's say that, oh, well, we got to keep him around. The buyout's too big. No one will want to come here with all these sanctions, even though the sanctions like aren't like that extraordinary in the grand scheme of things. But hear me out. Like, this is also why I'm out here. You see Wisconsin, you see Maryland, you see other programs say, hey, we're going to keep this struggling head coach, but we're really going to financially back the roster next year. And let's say Michigan State's going to be in a similar situation. Hey, who's getting fired up to put their money behind this program, behind this CEO that really just does not have any energy? And I know that's his personality, but that could be the problem right there. And we talked about it not too long ago with Corey Robinson of 24/7 Sports that, well, yeah, they might not have any alumni engagement here because, well, like, who could buy into this program? So maybe it's a corporate sponsor route. But how about you just get corporate sponsors and a guy in here that can energize a fan base and get donations at the same time? Because there's 2 ways that you could do this, right? There's 2 ways that you can get money. There's 2 ways that you can really bolster your NIL. The first one, easier said than done, is winning. Being a winning program certainly goes a long way. Now, when you're not winning, number 2 is be a good salesperson. Be a good marketer. Sell a vision. Get a culture and a product and an identity on the field that at least lets people know that, hey, this thing is heading somewhere. And for what I understand, and it's not like, it's very reasonable to believe this, that like he's not a great mover and shaker with the donors. I mean, he's not this salesperson. He's not this marketer. But unfortunately, that's part of the job these days. It's not enough to just be a football coach. No, you have to, whether it's at the podium, whether it's at events, whether it's on the phone, text message, smoke signal, I don't care how you communicate with people, you have to communicate with them. There is no sizzle on this steak. You see it in the press conferences. You see it on the sidelines. And I'm not a six-figure donor, but I imagine that the very little conversations that happen with them probably amongst the same line. And I get it. Like, that's an uncomfortable spot to be in maybe for someone. Like, I just want to coach football. I just want to do the X's and O's things. Like, well, that's not the job. Like, I'm going to relay it to something in my own life right here. A few years ago, Locked On Network, we were only podcasts, just a microphone with no face or anything. They announced, hey guys, in order to move forward as an organization, get better numbers, drive up ad sales, we're going on YouTube. That's a big leap out of someone's comfort zone. That, okay, we are throwing our face on a screen every day. Like that's swimming out of a comfort zone there. And guys, I'm not special. Jonathon Smith's not special. I guarantee if you have a job, you've run into something like this in your life where, yeah, you started your profession and then one day, something drastically changes. You got to figure it out. You got to get a little better at that in order to make you and your organization better. That's the job now. It's not just enough to be a football coach in those 60 minutes, which I still have my questions on, if even that is going well. You got to do it outside too, and that is why I'm out. Because you're asking him to just change entirely fundamentally as a person, and no, how about we just change the coach instead? Like that seems a little easier to do, more natural to do. So look, we'll give it to a few mailbag questions here. But first, you need to talk your ears off about Game Time, the greatest ticketing app out there. And guys, against all odds, you're not going to believe this. You're going to think I'm making this story up, but this is a true story. Last night at my sister's wedding, we're going to the Ford Field game in a few weeks against Maryland. And we're going against all odds as a big group. Like there are 9, maybe 10 people in our group. That's right. You can still find 9 or 10 people that want to go to a game. I opened up the Game Time app right by the bar, and I said, okay, 10 tickets all together. I found a deal for $33 per ticket in the lower bowl for Ford Field, all 10 tickets together. Like, easy as that. This isn't one of the apps where those $33 tickets are going to spring up to $68 all of a sudden because they just bury you with fees and taxes and a bunch of nonsense after you tap your phone 28 times. No, it's 2 taps on your phone. The price, what you see, is what you're going to pay. It's so simple as Game Time, guys. So, hey, join us at Ford Field. That's right. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be cinema, some may say, by downloading the Game Time app, guys, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege to save $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, download Game Time today. All right. Mailbag question time, lockedonspartans@gmail.com, because some of you people still watch and still have thoughts and questions, which I cannot thank you guys enough for. The engagement with all the listeners and the viewers this season has been incredible, despite the product on the field being anything but that. So Joshua writes in, I might be in the minority, but I would be okay if Marsh transfers this offseason. He has some talent, but he plays very lazy. That pass was very catchable and should have been caught by any good receiver, and just sticking one hand up is just lazy. That was a bad look for Nick Marsh here. Now, I'm not going to go as far as saying that he plays lazy. I think he's shown some pretty good effort here late in the season. Whether it is that Minnesota game where he had that great downfield block, I mean, is there maybe like a little bit of check out amongst some players? I guess, but that was a tough look. And if you don't know what we're talking about, it was circulating on Twitter, like a little slant route. He just goes up with one hand. He acts like the ball was thrown 20 feet over his head, but that was a catchable ball. I don't know. I don't think I'm going out on a limb saying like this has been kind of an underwhelming season for him. And I know that it's just far from a Nick Marsh issue. Like, it's also a quarterback issue, and the quarterback issue is because you have an offensive line issue. Like that, there's a lot of factors that go into an underwhelming season here. But yeah, I had the drop 2 weeks ago in the end zone on a catchable ball, and not the easiest catch, but a very catchable ball, especially for someone that wants to be drafted in the top 3 rounds. So no, I'm not going to call Nick Marsh lazy, but as it pertains to be okay if Marsh transfers, let me be crystal clear. I want to see him here next year. Like, yeah, hot take, right? Like, I want to see this really good player, probably talent-wise our best player, return to Michigan State. But let's say it's a scenario where he doesn't. Will I be bummed? Of course. But man, I don't know. You've also had him the last 2 years, and what does that amounted to? Would it free up some theoretical capital that you're paying him to maybe pay some other positions of importance? like put that money towards a better offensive line, defensive line, secondary players. I guess again, like if I had my pick, I want to see him come back. This is a Michigan kid. Like, this is a kid that is out of Detroit. He committed here over Penn State. Let's see this whole thing through. Don't be another guy like Keon Coleman that, came here for, a little study abroad trip and then went down south and then got drafted. I'm all set with that. But I'm not saying it would be like a blessing in disguise. But if you want to look at it like that, so I don't know. It really just reminds you of the Cincinnati Bengals, right? Like, they got sick weapons, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, but they got guys like me playing on the offensive line. And that's why Joe Burrow's basically on the sideline 14 weeks out of the year. Like, you got to start inside and then build out. Yeah. But appreciate the email, Joshua. Much appreciated. You're the best. Michael writes in. Michael, also the best. I know people say this is a bad year to get in the coach search, but I'm glad we'll be way down the list. I don't want some big name retread coach. Give me some 32-year-old Division II coach I'd never heard of. Maybe we'll get lucky. Michael, you're not going to believe this. And even like I have a hard time really believing this, but people you read and people you talk to, and like I don't know if MSU will be way down the list, believe it or not, even with the latest news, the sanctions. And look, it's just a few recruiting weeks that you'll miss here. And I'm going to reiterate it from the show we had a few days ago. Like, missing a few recruiting weeks is the least of our concerns in the realm of recruiting. We got a lot of other issues that we have to sew up here before we start, getting all bummed out that we're going to be missing a home game of recruiting next year and the year after that, and missing like 2 other weeks in the off season. Like, there's a lot bigger fish to fry in this recruiting basket here. I think Michigan State, like, are they up with the Floridas? Or are they up with the Penn States of the world, the Auburns? No, but I think they're maybe just a notch right behind Auburn. Maybe right on par with the Arkansas job, depending on how much John Tyson, the Chicken Man down there, will pony up for their next head coach. But it's one of these premier jobs in the Big Ten or SEC. Like, Michigan State, in theory, somehow, some way, like they do have a top 15 revenue in the country. Like, there are resources that could potentially be untapped here. But yeah, you got to spin the wheel and see if you'll land something. Like, I'm not one of the people that are saying, oh my God, everyone is getting into the coaching search. That means that UConn and Michigan State will be helpless. We're helpless right now. I mean, one of the arguments that, and this is a few weeks ago when I heard this is, and it was valid, like, you let Jonathon Smith walk or you fire him, like, things are only going to get even worse next year. Like, the roster is going to be a complete overhaul. You might go into the opening weeks of the season losing to Toledo, getting dog walked by Notre Dame, and how does that make anything any better? Okay, at this point, who on this roster, like, would you keep? There are a few. I'd keep Jordan Hall. That sounds like a great time. Nick Marsh, of course, like we just talked about. Connor Moore, sure, stick around, young man. By and large, like, tell me a hard reset, like, wouldn't really do much. I mean, like, at the very minimum. So, yeah, you go into next year, thinking you might lose the Toledo game. You might get pasted by Notre Dame. I would feel like that anyway if Jonathon Smith stuck around. Like, the whole offseason, I'm going to be petrified of that Toledo game, no matter who's the head coach, whether we do retain Smith or whether we do bring a new guy in. Like, so nothing, like, actually changes, in my opinion, if you fire Smith. So spin the wheel. Get into that coaching search. J-Bat, the mega fundraiser, let's raise some funds. Let's whatever. Let's persuade a coach to come over here to East Lansing, and let's get this party started here. Now, this was an email written a few days ago before the game, but we're going to get to it right now. Zrar writes in, with all the news coming out today and the uncertainty going forward with Smith, where do we fans go from here, Matt? I am just so drained mentally. It feels like there is nothing to look forward to as fans. Our recruiting class is getting picked apart as we speak. Now, he mentioned Samson Gash probably is going to go to Alabama. Probably. And we have no clue who is going to be leading this team next year. What can we as fans look forward to? Because our coach and the administration seems to lack a spine, and we as fans are having to suffer as a result. Bless the stars for Izzo and Nightingale, of course. Tom Izzo lands Ethan Taylor. Awesome. Adam Nightingale, his team is 9-1-0 after a road sweep over Notre Dame, but let's throw a pity party, but yeah, us fans have it horrible. And that's a fan base, by and large, that showed up in a big way to Spartan Stadium. Not great weather, horrible product on the field. That was still what it looks like, 50, 60,000. I mean, that student section was packed until very late in the game. So this is a fan base here that, I mean, does deserve some sympathy because we're still showing up. We're still here. Even with 4 years of just horrendous play. And like no light at the end of the tunnel, it seems like. Still here hanging around. So where do we go from here? Brother Zrar, I'm sorry. I don't know. I truly don't. For me, I just hope for the reset. Again, like Jonathon Smith seems like a great guy. I am incredibly sympathetic to the situation. And like someone tweeted at me like, hey, Smith looks really checked out. My first reaction now at this point, after hearing that he didn't know MSU was even under investigation, that he just got all of his wins wiped out from last year because the NCAA retroactively made a player ineligible, like, my first reaction was just human emotion. I think I'd be a little checked out too, like, if that was my life, right? Maybe it's a little different when I'm making like $5-6 million like he is, but like, how, like, as a human, could you still just be all in? Especially when you've uprooted your family from the West Coast where you've lived your entire life and you've come over here. Like, home has to be calling a little bit, right? I do really wonder if this Oregon State vacancy is actually going to come into play here. Would they welcome Jonathon Smith back? Would Jonathon Smith want to come back? What would the numbers look like on the Michigan State side of things? It wouldn't be the full $30 million buyout, but I don't think the Oregon State is certainly going to offer him a salary that's going to match that buyout number. There's going to have to be an agreement set in stone here. So I don't think Smith to Oregon State is actually at a 0% because who could blame the guy if he didn't want to be here anymore? He's getting booed at basketball games. Like, the fan base is largely out on him. He's from the other side of the country. Ain't no one having a fun time here. He's getting the NCAA taking away wins because he played a player that he didn't even know was ineligible and actually wasn't rule ineligible until after the game. Like, yeah, I'd be done. I'd be done. Certainly I would. I mean, good God. What a horrible last, few years here he's at. So I guess that's what you look forward to, is just hoping that something changes. Or you look forward to basketball, which is what we will talk about on tomorrow's show. We're going to have Trill Withers at Tyler I Am. He's a big Kentucky fan. This guy's a megastar on Twitter. He's actually going to join the show tomorrow, guys. I'm already looking forward to that conversation. And yeah, we're going to get more into basketball here because we got to smile eventually, right? But until then, guys, hey, take care of yourselves. Love you all. Go green.